Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. This is the June 14th session of the work session of the East Fishkill Town Board. As you see, we're in a little different setting tonight. Work sessions are typically where board members, as public law indicates, board members get together and talk about things that matters that are important to the town in kind of a setting such as this. So if you would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you very much. Speaking of the American flag, I just came from a flag burning ceremony that's put on by our Manny Bacon Post down by the library across the street there. And what a nice ceremony they do every year on Flag Day. And this past year, a young gentleman, Zach Biondo, he's for his Eagle Scout project, built us a fire pit to retire our flags respectfully. And what a great job, and just a very, very nice ceremony. So I'd like to thank the Manny Bacon Post, and I would like to thank Zach Biondo for his good work. Just a couple things I'd like to mention tonight. Oh, it must have been about a year ago, this board had authorized the map plan report and the extension of the Wildflower sewer line over to Wildflower. We filled out the appropriate paperwork and sent it up to New York State. Tom, I guess it goes to the Comptroller's Office of the Comptroller, correct, for review?
Correct.
And was about a year. And it was about 3 months I started haunting the attorney to haunt bond counsel and see what was going on. We kept being told, no, it's fine, it's being processed and everything. And a couple weeks ago, I decided to call Senator Slan's office, and their staff got right on it, and they made a few calls, and we found it actually had stalled, but we're back on track with the state controller reviewing the application. We expect to have it back within the next few weeks. So thank goodness. I would like to thank Senator Slan's office because they were very helpful in this matter. And they are always there for us. Scott, if we do get we talked about the Wildflower project, we think we could actually be breaking ground possibly by August? In August sometime?
Probably more likely September.
September, you think?
Yeah.
How long of a project do you think it'll be time-wise?
Probably on the longest 6 months.
Okay.
I think the mechanicals are probably a long lead item, so.
Okay. Oh, for ordering and getting them?
The pumps will be the critical item.
Okay. But as far as putting the line in and things like that?
It's a directional bore, so 2-3 months.
Okay.
The lion's share of the work will be done.
Oh, good, really? And the majority of it is directional bore, correct?
Correct.
Wow. Oh, that's good. So as say we get started, we could do the bulk of the piping 3 to 4 months, and then we could actually, the winter wouldn't bother us if we had to wait on the pumps.
Exactly.
And
The station will be
installation.
installed, it'll be just installing the mechanical.
Excellent. Good deal. So I'm glad to hear it, and glad the Wildflower project is moving forward again. Thanks to Senator Slan. So terrific. I did want to say one thing that I forgot to mention last month, and I know that Councilman Cassidy was there. I know Councilman D'Alessandro couldn't make it. Councilman Danke was there. We attended the fireman's inspection dinner, and I got to tell you what a great thing that was. This is just such an impressive bunch. I don't know. I forget what they say about our fire people, but they're all volunteer. It's an amazing thing, and to see how these guys, these kids, these young men, right up to the officers, they work together. It's just like they say, it's like a family. And I was just so impressed. I don't know, Bill, we were talking about it afterwards, how...
Yeah, I went to the inspection on that
Breakfast,
Sunday breakfast, and then inspection of all 4 of the stations with the commissioners, McClellan and the others, and it's the same thing. It's each place, they're the same kind of camaraderie. It's really, we're very fortunate in East Fishkill.
We really are, very fortunate. And I just got to tell you, Peter, I know you thought the same thing, to see these guys, and they work together, they play together, they kid together, and just what a great, like a big family, so.
Men and women, though.
Men and women, yep, firemen and firewomen. But it's a great thing, and volunteers, all professionals, every one of them. It's a great thing. So I did just want to comment how really, really thankful we are to have our fire people. Just one last thing I'd like to say. 2 things I'd like to say. Speaking of New York State, as I was with Senator Slan just a few minutes ago, New York State, our friends at New York State DOT have sent us a notice. Thank goodness they're going to be paving, they're going to be blacktopping Route 82 north of East Fishkill. So they're going to start at the Taconic Parkway, and they're going to go up to Route 55. They're supposed to start in June and complete the end by the work of July. I think we heard that with a bridge on Route 82 too. So thank goodness there's only a short section of the town of East Fishkill, and they'll be starting sometime this month, so. And that's about it. Oh, I did want to say too, on the property across the street from the town hall, Tom, when did we close on that? Tuesday night?
Tuesday, we had the closing Tuesday
Yep.
afternoon.
This is a wonderful thing. So we are currently in possession of 147 acres of property across the street for $1.2 million. So, plus the extras and things like that, but wow, very, very, very good thing. Looking forward to this project. And I know, Scott, we put out the RFPs for the,
Which I'll do next Thursday for the well exploration.
yeah. So we'll be starting looking for water across the street there, probably next month, you think? Oh, I hate to do this to you all the time,
Probably
don't I?
August.
I always get you with the timelines.
Probably
And-
August, probably August.
And he always puts you off an extra month.
I know
too.
he does that, since he knows I'm gonna do that. It's easier to say August than it happens in July, you say, wow, that's good, so, but really, you know,
Unless we're
really
talking
look,
filters, then we'll push it back 3 months.
looking forward to that, so.
What do you think the likelihood to find good,
Oh, it's a good likelihood,
Yeah.
you know. It's just a matter of where. It's a lot of area, but everyone thinks, you know, definitely find water. It's just a matter of optimism.
Yep, this is a great thing, so, has a lot, I don't wanna say anything more, but it really has a lot of potential, so, very, very happy about that. All right, there's no presentations this evening, a few items to discuss. The large public gathering and event permit, talk about this a little bit. I know when I was, we'd spoken about this in the past, actually, the Hopewell Flea Market, when they have the Hopewell Flea Market, it can just devastate traffic on Route 52 throughout Stormville. It was Memorial Day weekend, I ran into one of our officers at the local deli, and I said, how's it going today? And he said that they had 7 people they'd had to go up to get out of the Stormville Flea Market. I guess it was very hot that day. 7 people had fainted, and they had to take them out and send them up to the hospital. And, you know, it's just tough getting in and out of there, and getting emergency services in and out of there. And, Tom, I think this actually, too, they precipitated this year by sending us a letter, something about the,
Yes, the town has a law on the books that regulates gatherings of 5,000 people or more. It was enacted in 1975, and most people refer to these as Woodstock laws because everyone got panicked by Woodstock and they thought they were going to have them all over. But they did send us, the Stormville Flea Market sent us a letter saying that their event would be less than 5,000 people.
right,
So that was telling us that they didn't think they needed a permit.
right,
The other aspect of it is we responded to them, however, and told them that they were required to have a Department of Health permit, and to the best of our knowledge, they never applied for that.
right,
Because there are many things that the health department would regulate, that there'd be water for people, restroom facilities.
Yeah.
The food vendors would be regulated, et cetera, so.
yeah, so this is really turning out to be quite a problem. And then I had gotten a letter from our chairman of the Board of Fire Commissioners, and they were talking about, just in that same weekend, traffic throughout the weekend was backed up to and completely stopped on Route 52 as far as Hyatt's Garage. The major roads, 216 to the town line into Old 52, were to be inspected by the police department on their traffic jams, and emergency medical coverage. This department's understanding that Stormville Flea Market contracted with TransCare Ambulance to have on-site EMS. That contract did not include transportation to the councils. So Mobile Life in East Fishkill did the transports from anybody who fainted on the premises up to the hospital. And as it says, this is not what the taxpayers in East Fishkill are supposed to pay for when it comes to private enterprises. So this is a huge thing, and we've known this for years, but I think this year it's really come home that we need to do something here.
What was the estimated attendance? Is there any way of determining that?
I don't know if there's a way to really take account aside from somebody
Standing there with a
being on site
clicker.
for one of the shows and taking account with a clicker like they are on 82 here.
I mean, could you
There's a
safely
tremendous
say it was
amount of people that
more than
go.
5,000?
A tremendous amount of people.
I think there's 5,000 people stuck in the traffic jams.
Yeah,
The highest, yeah.
absolutely.
Plus, Phillips Road now backs up, correct? And so does Greenhaven Road, because
people are knowing the back ways now. you know.
Tomatoes, we used to be able to get in there that way, and now they're all backed up. Yeah.
Up
So-
But you
Mountain
probably
too.
cover
Yeah.
50 acres of land with cars.
But I think what we should look at as a board, and I would ask to have maybe a little panel with our representatives from the fire department, from the police department, but I think probably a few things we should do is lower the attendance, lower the thresholds. They have to have mandatory Board of Health to know the facilities are there. They have to, and our law addresses some of this. We need a traffic plan. When traffic comes up to pull in, they need to get them in, get them off our roads, get them parked, and they need to show us how they're going to accomplish that. And in the event of emergency, there needs to be an evacuation plan. And also, they need to have a specific number of officers, and they need to have the care to transport them up to the hospital. So,
Can we deny them for their next event? Isn't there a next event coming up?
no, because there's no permit required in their eyes. I mean,
But in their eyes, in
Yeah.
our eyes, we know it's over
could
5,000
we
people.
prove it's more than 5,000? Yeah.
So then they're in violation of the code, correct?
But it would be incumbent on us to prove it was over 5,000 people, so I think what the proposal is to.
Drop the threshold.
Amend the law, drop the threshold. And as part of that process, with some updating, but the current law, many things that the supervisor just indicated are things that would be reviewed in advance. And what I would just suggest that in addition to dropping the numbers, that we include that it be reviewed by the fire district, by the police chief.
Yeah, for their
And then-
approval.
And this does make the issuance of our permit is subject to receipt of a permit from Dutchess County Health Department, so that's how we can address all
Yeah.
that.
Well, is there any other laws that they are violating with all this traffic on the roads? And
Well, I think they are probably violating the vehicle and traffic law by
Probably, yeah.
blocking
Yeah.
the public highway, but I think that, I don't know, let the chief address that, but I mean, I think it would be difficult
Well,
to.
my thing is, it's been established for 40 years, so
Mhm.
even if you tried to cancel next month's event, it wouldn't be successful, because the thousands of people who come, how are you gonna call them and tell them it's canceled?
We'll have to give the
They're
chief
still
a
gonna
microphone.
come. So now you're gonna have an event that's not occurring.
Look at this, I'm gonna give the
I
chief a
normally don't need
microphone.
I normally don't need a mic.
He always sits over here, he just gives comments, let me give him a microphone, and now he's actually part of the workshop.
I don't think it's an event that you could cancel, Nick. I really don't.
Well, how about not cancel? How about give them some guidance on how to get some of the traffic off the road?
Because I worked it, I was one of the officers who worked that for probably 15 years straight. I worked almost every show, and I tried everything known to man to try to get the cars off the road as quickly as possible. And we had some pretty good systems down, but here's the problem. Everybody is looking for an information booth when they're pulling in, okay? So one person stops, it backs everything up. And it's not just one person stops. Every other car stops to ask you, how do I get closest to the bathrooms? Where are the handicap spots? What's the closest to the antique section? And every car that comes in, out of the 5,000 or 10,000 cars that come in, everyone wants to stop and ask the policeman or the traffic guy a question. And we got to the point at shows that we told everybody to turn their backs on people and just wave them and yell, wave them, and turn their backs on them. Don't say a word to them. And they got all, we had fights. I mean, I had to call 1013 up there a couple of times because I was in the middle of a giant Donnybrook in the parking lot because people were pissed at these guys and upset with me, and
And about 10 years ago, we stopped the parking on, they used to park along 216.
We stopped all of
for
that.
Entire stretch.
Wow.
For that whole season, we had Hyatts up there full-time, just pulling cars, towing them into the lot.
And I gotta be honest with you, they did a lot to try to make things better. They upgraded all of their entrances, all their parking lots, all their roadways, all their signage. They eliminated the parking on 216, so there's nowhere that anybody can park on 216 now. You have to go in, they made a third entrance into the place. They made a couple of exit only so they could get people out quicker.
How about if they move the parking to the other end of the fair? The
It
other-
already is, it's in the total fare right now. It's on both ends and in the middle. Yeah,
But it's, it's not up to us to solve their problem.
nope.
It's up to us to make sure they provide us with a plan and stick to it, so,
Because I know the residents complain all the time.
yeah, I couldn't
about They can't
imagine.
even get to their houses.
Yeah.
Well, what we'd be able to do is at your next meeting, you could schedule this for a public hearing in July, And based on the comment and the board's feeling, you could probably have a new warrant in the books by August. You know, so
I
that
think
might-
you should try to get some input from the owners of the property.
Our fire commissioner.
John, would it be possible if the town board directs the police chief to have one of those officers out there physically doing a count of people? At the next show, so this way-
It'd take more than one officer, it would take,
Whatever it is,
yeah.
Yeah.
This way you have the information, you're not relying on any other source.
Mm-hmm.
First-hand information.
Oh, you could sit and look at every car going in and count how many people are in the car. I mean, you could do, they're doing it out on 82 right now, they're doing
Oh,
a
yeah,
traffic
yeah.
count.
Yeah, we can discuss, we'll see if there's a way that we can, is there a way that we could actually count the number of people at this event?
You know, there's more events now, too.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's like 5 days.
We can
There's
get
one
a
on-
vehicle count
there's one
like
on
it's put on
Saturday.
The strips on the road, it won't tell us how many people, but it'll give us the increase in the traffic. And you could probably make some approximation, 2 people per car, 3, you know, make some assumptions. I mean, that would be, without having to put somebody out there for 2 days.
Okay. What I would like to do, and if there's any board members that are free, that would like to sit down with the chief of police and with the fire commissioners and talk about what we need to do about this, we could either do it that way, have one council person sit down with them and try to put something together. Anybody want to volunteer?
I'll volunteer.
Would you mind, Nick? I'd appreciate that, because Bill's already heading up a couple other committees. So if he could, Peter's always busy anyway. Peter can never get him.
The only, the one thing that I mentioned to John when we were talking about this the other day, and if the number goes too low, do we have to look at all the carnivals and everything that are going on? That was my question.
Well, I was thinking about that after you posed that question. Those activities probably still are required to have a health department permit. But most of those activities are actually run on town-owned property. So that therefore, I don't believe they would be subject to this permit. But we all know that when you're on town property, we control.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because you can see with the
I think it's a
fireworks,
little different.
we'll get
Because you-
500 people out of here
because you're
in no
gonna-
time at all.
yeah, but
Without
you're gonna
police
see all these
department.
different things that we do. I mean, we got the,
Yes. We have
got-
Community Day, you have the Sunset Italy.
well, you got the, and you got the big soccer tournaments, the baseball tournaments and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and I gotta
Well,
believe,
those,
I
since
gotta
they would
believe.
be on town facilities
Yeah.
that are designed for that type of use, would be an
Okay.
exemption to that.
And they also happen at the time when the flea markets happen, all those big events.
Yeah,
They're going on at the same time the traffic with the flea market is.
But
But
what-
because the flea market doesn't have to get a permit, we really don't have an accurate
control,
handle on when
yeah.
they're having
Yeah.
events, which is a factor that the board could rely on saying, well, they already have a permit, so maybe you gotta do the soccer thing the week after.
Yeah, and I can guarantee you, we have enough officers handling us when the fireworks are over. I guarantee you, they have like 2 officers up there for all those people. This is totally unsafe, and we're gonna have to regulate it. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts.
So is the Board of Health also 5,000 people or?
No, it's
So then,
it's a much lower threshold.
Yeah,
so then how come they don't comply with Dutchess County Board of Health?
well, we don't enforce Board of Health, I
But
mean,
when I responded to them, I told them they had to have a Board of Health permit, but I know the town engineer contacted the Board of Health. They have a rule that the application is supposed to be filed 30 days before, it was not, and then we followed up afterwards, and no permit had ever been applied for.
Right.
However, I guess the county doesn't do anything if you don't do that.
that we're at this point. Well, let's see what happens where this goes, but we need to do something about it, so. Nick, if you're okay with that, we'll start setting up something and putting
Yeah.
together, and you have a copy of the rules that we have
Yes.
now, which has some good ideas in it, so we can get
Okay.
this thing moving.
Yeah, I'll meet with the commissioner and the chief.
Okay. Very good. Second item for discussion tonight, planning board fees and escrows. We had discussed, I think we were taking a look at planning board fees and escrows probably about a year ago. You know, the only thing that the one thing we want to make sure with planning board fees and escrows is, there's 2 things, that our professionals, their time on projects are covered. The taxpayers shouldn't be paying for any of it. But on the other hand, we have a fiduciary responsibility to the applicant that their money is not wasted or squandered and it is used in an appropriate manner. So I asked Scott maybe to look into some of these things, Scott and Tom, to talk about what we could do as far as coming up with new fees and a new policy.
Currently, before you had an in-house engineer, you had all planning board applications were reviewed by consulting engineers with the town. So if someone applied for
for the planning board or zoning board, they had to post an escrow deposit, and it was referred out to the consulting engineer, who submitted a bill, and the money was deducted from it. As you've moved now to having an in-house engineer and some staff, we've cut tremendously the cost to the town for outside engineers. But what the courts have now said is that when you want to utilize the escrow account, you have to provide for that in your town law. So we are proposing that we'll ask you to hold a public hearing and amend the current law that says that when someone applies for a permit, they deposit money into the account, but then you would set a fee schedule. So you would take, for instance, Scott's hourly rate plus benefit percentage, etc. You would designate a number, and any application or work he does on a planning board application from the time it's filed until the time of approval with the planning board would be charged to that escrow account. This way the taxpayers are not subsidizing his time for reviewing the individual applications. Now, obviously, once a project gets a permit, the inspections thereafter are included either in the building permit fee that's charged for our staff to go out and inspect, or it's there's a site inspection fee, which in our law is an amount assessed on the project, so that reimburses the taxpayers for that cost. So this would modernize our escrow system, bring it up into full compliance with the current law in the state, and it would help, make sure that the true cost of professionals' time is spent, is charged to the right.
Appropriately.
So currently, there's a provision, if an inspector goes out, there's a set amount that we would know to charge for that inspection.
Correct. There's an inspection fee that's charged when this commercial or subdivision, when it's finally approved by the planning board, there's an inspection fee that's assessed. It's normally a percentage of the performance bond or the cost of the project. And that money is paid to the town, and that is to reimburse the town for all inspections that have to take place to make sure the parking lot is built right, and that the driveway accesses are correct, and that the architectural review board's approval is.
Okay, so my question is, for all the inspections that go into, say, a commercial or a residential, is the fee collected enough to cover all the inspections being done?
Typically,
Okay.
Yeah.
typically, yes.
So then we'd be doing the same thing,
Well,
but
this is
for
now-
engineering?
This is before approval.
Okay, so, but we'd be doing basically the same thing, setting up a fee schedule. for-
Right.
Okay.
And the hope would, and this would also, I think last year there was like $150,000, $160,000 that was paid out in consultants. The way it benefits an applicant, if you want to look at it that way, is that obviously an employee's hourly rate, even marked up for benefits, et cetera, is still going to be less than the consultant's charge. So that it's a balancing on both sides. It helps the taxpayers
Right.
that the cost of the project is being borne by the applicant, but it also helps the applicant in that they're getting the benefit of a salaried person doing the review. It doesn't mean that we'll never have an outside engineer. Because
big projects.
Big projects,
Sure.
you can't just consume it. And obviously, as long as Scott's the only person reviewing, he's not going to be able to do all the applications. But, that would be the concept to at least get the escrow system going, to clean
Yep.
up the statute, to make it available to both.
I think that's
Yeah.
great.
It seems like it'd be fair to everybody.
And then the fee aspect would be, I don't know if it would be later this year, or at least part of the budget would be to take a look at, some of our fees are lower than other towns in the county, some are higher, but there's, a review that has to be
Yeah,
done.
yeah. Typically, every few years, we'll take a look at the other towns, see what they're charging, building department fees, zoning board fees, stuff like that, just to make sure we're equal to them, right in the ballpark.
That was last time in 2010. We
Yeah,
had that,
yeah,
and we were lagging in several.
yeah. So we'll take a look at that. So, well, I think it's something that needs to be done, and obviously, at least to pass the law to allow that to happen, so. It'd be good for the taxpayer, it'd be good for the applicant, and I think it'd be fair, so. So we'll be taking a look at that, we'll be discussing that further as we go along.
In the same token, if you're working on a project for recreation, do those hours get billed back towards recreation type thing? Do you break that kind of stuff out?
If it's.
Sometimes.
If it's a capital
Yeah.
project, my understanding is the controller will assess some of the hours back to the
Yeah.
capital fund.
But it's not always, I mean, if he's called out to look at something, minor
No,
or
but if he's
something like that.
putting a lot of time
Yeah.
into one area.
Oh, a
does
lot
it-
of time,
Does
yeah.
it go back and forth?
Yeah, a lot of time. I
Yeah,
think.
like the bathroom project, we build the time.
Yeah.
Recreation doesn't always like that because they feel that they
Yeah.
get to enjoy the benefit of having an in-house
Yep.
engineer, so we
Yeah.
try to,
Yeah.
However, I think the point
Yeah.
to be made is that the town engineer is a general town charge, so his salary is paid by levy of taxes against everybody in the town. It's the same as the operating budget for recreation, it's the same fund. So the only benefit of charging time to, say, from the engineer's budget to recreation would just be for the town board to have an idea of how much
Yeah.
you're paying for recreation engineering as opposed to highway engineering or
Yep.
water and sewer engineering.
Yeah.
Because the water districts do reimburse the general fund for any time
Yeah, they track
spent
it.
So
with
if you're out
respect-
doing work on special projects, you get reimbursed.
If it's the water district or sewer
Special
district
districts.
charge,
Yeah.
it's charged against them and the general fund's reimbursed.
Okay, so we'll keep moving forward on that, but it seems like the best thing to do for everybody. Number 3, we've talked about this a little bit in the past, never seemed to really get a handle on it, but the town clerk, the tax receiver, and the deputy tax receiver went to a seminar, about a week and a half ago on credit cards. And there's been a lot of work on seeing if towns can actually use credit cards for payments. We actually, the Court of Office Administration has allowed credit cards to be used in the court office. In the past, what would happen is people come in, they'd be assessed a fine, they say, I don't have the money. They'd say, okay, well, you have to pay us later, then they wouldn't pay, we'd have a stack of them like this, we'd send them out. So now, we have the credit card machine, and it has just made everything a lot easier for everybody. Our fines are paid then and there, they're up to date. So it's a terrific time saver and a money saver. And now there's companies that have worked out a situation where they can actually process credit card payments for taxes, utility bills, water, sewer, permits, recreation, fishing and hunting licenses. So in that same vein, it seems like it's a whole lot easier if we could use credit cards for those type of transactions. One thing also, just before we get too far into it, I'd like to say, the Red Wing passes being sold at Lime Kiln seems to be working out very well. I just want to let everybody know, because you can go there 7 days a week. The hours are a lot longer, and a lot of people that have gone over there have said it's really working out great, because they can go there the day they need it or what have you. So that's been very helpful. So,
More people saw the facility now.
yeah,
that's
and more
great.
people come and they see it. So that has really worked out well. But in this case, we could actually accept credit card payments for a lot of the things and make the transactions a lot easier. So Carol, I've asked Carol, and the gentleman that actually gave this seminar, I'm not sure which company he's from, there's 3 of them. He's going to come and give us a presentation at the July workshop to talk about it a little bit further. So, and I know, Bill, you did a little bit of online research on it?
Yeah, a company called Municipe did basically the same thing. And the fee charged for using the credit card is not charged to the town, but to the person who's purchasing the
Product or what have
product,
you.
the
Yeah.
service, whatever we're doing. But I guess the law stipulates, and maybe Tom can, it's stipulated on their bill that is a convenience fee.
Convenience charge, yep.
So,
And what I've seen with this one that Carol our town clerk went to last couple weeks ago, the fee is a lot less, it's like 2% or something like that, it's
Yeah,
very
I think-
reasonable.
I think that's what this company charged, yeah.
So, something to look into. I think it'd help out people and be a lot better for ease of transactions, so.
Yeah, I think we should, I don't know, I haven't looked into it, but I know merchants pay a different rate depending on the card that is used.
Oh, really?
So if there's like an American Express or there's a rewards card, they're
Yep.
paying a higher percentage because the customer is using it.
Okay,
So sometimes it's as high as 4%.
really? Wow.
So, but I guess we don't
No, the company.
pay that burden.
No.
Okay, so that's,
That's a great thing.
That's why some businesses won't accept certain
Credit
Credit
cards.
cards.
yeah, exactly,
Because
because
the
they
fee is
lose
too
4%
high.
of their
Sure,
sale.
sure, sure.
So if, somebody pay their taxes and we'll lose 3% of,
No, we
Yeah.
couldn't do
we
that.
can't.
Yeah, no, we can't do that.
Especially when we're giving it to the school, we lose an extra 4% too.
Yeah, right.
Yep, no, that's true. So we've asked the gentleman, and he'll come in at the workshop in July, we'll talk about it a little further, and we'll see where it goes. Carol said, I think the town of Beekman got their machine the other day. A lot of the towns around us are actually starting to do this already. So it seems like it might be something, so we'll check into it. The fourth thing on the agenda, I did want to touch on real quick, operating permits issued under New York State Building Code. And I'll ask Tom to talk about this because Tom actually did put together a law a while back establishing the Department of Engineering, which incorporated a lot of this. Some of the other laws I would like to take a look at too. I know the planning board actually, I believe, Tom, the planning board just put together a bunch of things that they wanted addressed in our zoning ordinance about definitions and such.
Yes, they're making a recommendation, you should be receiving that about defining structure, buffer zones, landscape areas to, and the zoning board worked on it also. It's kind of a joint effort, and they're sending it to the town board to ask you to consider amending the zoning ordinance by inserting these definitions to clear up a lot of
Yeah.
confusion.
Yeah. And also, we've had a request too, I guess, and this is an issue I've had for years, is processing material on site. You know, if you're doing a job where you're building a house or building a building and you have a lot of rock on site, it always seems to me to be a little bit silly that you're breaking up this rock, you're hauling off site, and then you're hauling in smaller rock to use for a road bed or what have you. You know, and in this day where, you know, gasoline, you know, wear and tear on the roads and stuff, I think it's a good idea. I know it's going to take some looking into, but I'd like the board to consider if we would allow, say, rock crushing or processing on site. Obviously, there'd be very strict regulations regarding it as far as setback from any other properties, hours of operation, dust control. And I think to me, it just makes a lot of sense, but I'd like the board to consider it. I mean, if it doesn't seem like it's workable, I have no problem with that. But it is something I would like to take a look at, especially some projects that are far away from everybody. It's a little bit silly. So we'll get a draft on that and bring that forward too. But as far as the operating permits, Tom, would you like to tell us a little bit about the law that you had presented to us
Okay, just
a couple years ago?
Sure. Basically, all towns, villages, and cities in the state of New York have to enforce the New York State, the Uniform Fire, Building Fire, and Property Maintenance Law. It's a state law. It was put in, if you recall, in the late 70s, early 80s, there was that tragic fire down in Port Chester at Gulliver's, a nightclub. And after that, the state legislature said we should really have a uniform building code throughout the state, and they enacted that. And each town, which the state often does, is mandates that we do the enforcement of it. And we've been doing that over the years, but the state does require that we have a local law that shows, number one, that we are administering it, how we're administering it, and to spell out certain things in the local law. So the local law that I drafted, I'm updating it, I've been taking comments from everyone, would kind of take our department, which, you know, the building department, and we have an engineer. We also have now other laws, MS4, the stormwater. We have wetlands, steeps, so it would kind of put together into one law the process and administration of all these laws, which I think would be helpful for the public and for anyone to know what they're doing. So basically, as far as the building code part of it, it spells out what the state law requires us to require in the application for a building permit. I know over the last year or so, many builders or people getting building permits have said to me, oh, you know, the town now, they won't give me the permit until they come out and look at the property before I can start. That's not the town, that's a mandate from the state and amendment of the state building code. So I think it would help to make that clearer in our ordinance so that the people know. But a particular aspect that the state wants us to adopt is it's called operating permits. And when an operating permit, it would be for commercial activities, but there are certain commercial activities that by their nature are more dangerous than others. So an example might be if there's a manufacturing building in the town and they use certain chemicals, like we had a problem the other day when schools with sulfuric acid. Well, if there was a manufacturing company in the town that had sulfuric acid or other acids in it, they would then now be required to obtain an operating permit. And basically what that does is they have to apply, be granted a permit which is good for 1 year. It requires them to give us all the information about these materials. It requires us to go out and inspect to make sure that the building is in the appropriate
Zone,
structure, integrity to house these chemicals, that the fire safety equipment is up to date, et cetera. And it's an annual thing, would require that inspection. That's one example. Another example is the state now mandates that we require that any building that is allowed to be occupied by 100 persons or more, a place of public assembly,
Yeah.
have an operating permit. And as we know under the fire code, these buildings have been inspected regularly,
Right.
but now they want this operating permit to kind of force the owner of the property and the town to realize that these inspections have to be done annually. It also allows you to add certain things to it. The one example of what we're talking about adding is the propane exchange stations. They're popping up all over. Some of them are very well protected. They have a barrier so a car can't drive into them. They have enough room to lift the containers out, et cetera. But then there are others that are just, in the parking lot or subject to impact. So that's the kind of activity that would require an operating permit. It's because once you give the building the C of O, you never usually go back there, except based on the activity. So now with operating permits, as mandated by the state, with some latitude to the town to add some that are unique to us, we're required to do it.
Yeah, and it would give us a little idea who's operating what in town, New business goes in, a business area, and, it might be retail one day, then next day they might be selling shotguns or something. We wouldn't know because it's just a change of a retail use. So it just gives us a little bit of better idea of who's operating what in the town.
And the ironic part is, if you don't enact it, we're subject to audit by the state. The State Department of State can come in and audit, and if you don't have it, then the fine is assessed against the town for not administering.
Just like with the MS4 now.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there's also authority that if the state feels that you're not adequately enforcing the code, they can come in and take over your code enforcement and back bill you until they feel the records and everything have been brought up to a level of acceptance.
So you're updating the law that you submitted to us a few years ago.
Yes.
And again, this is a New York State mandate. It's something that we knew we were going to have to do at some point. But also, I think that the way you've done it, Tom, addresses a lot of other issues of concern. So,
But this was never enacted.
No,
No.
this was a draft. And I will have for you in the next week or two, more current, like the updated version now based on some additional input. We met with the building department yesterday, constantly talking with Scott about it, and we're trying to get into all the MS4 aspect, all of these things to get it all.
pull together.
And it would also allow you to set a chain of command type thing, so that all these inspectors and people who issue permits, et cetera, you'll have a clear managerial chain of command that would be part of this thing.
Don't get me wrong, we don't always enact everything the attorney draws up, just so that you know. He does a lot of work, we don't enact it
And
all.
I have to confess that 85% of this
Yeah.
is a recommended version from the state as to what they will accept as a minimum. It's much like the floodplain law that we adopted. 85% of that is from the model law that they
Right.
generate, and then locally, we just input some of the things we need for
Yeah.
here.
So it's a law that's going to be on the books, something we'll be working on again the next few months. And again, also with the other laws that I had mentioned before. So we have a little bit of work to do, but we'll be discussing that. Any thoughts on it? Seems mandated, so basically there's not a whole lot of stuff to talk about, and it's going to really serve us well too. Peter?
No?
Let's see how it goes, Bill? Okay, that sounds good. I did want to mention one thing. This is obviously the June workshop, summer meeting dates. We will be kind of busy, I hate to say it, June and July, but being as it is the summertime, I was hoping we could maybe cancel the August workshop. I'd like to give everybody at least one meeting date off in the summer, so. I did want to cancel July, we have a lot of work to do in the July meeting, so. Everybody okay with that? We'll cancel the August workshop?
Okay.
Okay, Nick, okay? Bill?
Great.
Tom, you okay with that? You and Scott okay with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah? Okay, as long as you guys are okay with it. All right, and that was really it tonight. A lot of things going on, a lot of good things happening. And now, I don't know if the various reports from town board members, anybody have anything you'd like to comment on in the town?
Yeah, I got a couple things. One, the supervisor and I were talking a few months, about 4 months ago, about having a 5-year plan with the police. And so. as
Oh,
the
wait a
lead-
minute. You guys want to leave the room for a minute? Only
As-
kidding,
as,
only
uh,
kidding.
5 years, they won't be here anyway. What are you talking about?
Sorry, Bill.
So I asked Councilman Delisandro if he'd like to be on the committee, and he said, okay. And we have Controller Mark Bosniak, Chief Brian Nichols, and Lieutenant Mark Alberti. And we've met 2 or 3 times as a group, and then Nick and I have met by ourselves with the controller, and Brian and Mark have met with the controller privately. And on the 21st, I think, or 28th now, I think we finally, on the 28th, we'll have another meeting and maybe start to come up with a final 5-year plan. The goal of the 5-year plan is to keep the same level of policing that we have in East Fishkill, which is superior, and maybe even improve it, but yet keep the cost of the police to the present level, percentage level of the town budget. And so with that as our goal, we've been working towards that, and I think making some positive, and we're all working together. I think we're all on the same page that we want to accomplish both of these goals. And the other thing I'm involved with Councilman Cassidy is the Noise Committee. Shh, be quiet. I knew he was going to say that. The Noise Committee, and Peter and I are on that, and we have 5 residents who have given their time, and Brian Nichols has attended every meeting and offered, because since the police are the ones who are going to have to ultimately be involved in some enforcement of whatever we come up with, they have a lot of input, and Brian's given a lot of good input. And Lieutenant Alberti met with our 2 co-chairs last week and at the police station, I believe, and one evening, and talked about various things. So we're trying to, our goal there is to come up with a law that is fair and reasonable, and try to keep it as simple as possible and accomplish those goals. So the residents that are on the committee have been super. So we're meeting again next. Oh, and Town Attorney Mr. Wood has also been attending the meetings for the first half hour, because we hold them the same night as a planning board, and we start them at 7 o'clock, so Tom can be with us for legal advice for the first half hour of each session.
Good,
So the next meeting is next Tuesday.
sounds good.
I know.
It's going to know a lot of the thing, especially with the police department, the 5-year plan, and engaging it as a percentage of the budget, I think is a great way to plan a healthy police department and keep our budget in good shape too. And I appreciate all the work you guys are doing on the police committee. That's great. Peter, anything you want to say? You want to talk about anything?
Yeah, I got a hold of Dennis today. I was talking to him to get some of the stuff that the highway's been working on lately. Just recently finished the drainage on Crown Hill and Summit, and they're getting ready to pave that pretty soon. He's also been working behind the police station because of all the salt that we didn't use all winter,
Now, that's.
and now we have to have a place to put it.
It's ironic that we save money by installing the computers and not putting down so much salt, but the contract says you still have to take another
Still gotta buy
3,000
it.
tons or pay penalties, so we're gonna have a lot of salt. We won't be
Yeah.
buying salt for quite a while, I think.
Yeah.
But,
So they're processing the site behind the police department to store the salt. When it's all done, police department will have a new parking lot. And then he's also been out repairing the catch basins and the pipes that have rotted away over the past few years, and been getting a lot of tree work done.
Good, good.
So,
Yeah.
they're staying busy.
They are staying busy. And catch basins are,
They're getting a lot done because of no snow, but,
yeah. And they are doing a lot of catch basin drainage, where I give them a lot of credit, so.
Yep.
Good,
so he's doing good.
good, thank you, Peter. Nick, anything you'd like to discuss?
Well, the zoning board right now is having a public hearing for an application for a new cell phone tower
Mm-hmm,
in Dogwood
yeah,
Knolls area by the golf course. The public hearing was opened Tuesday night, and it is going to continue in July. If anybody wants to come, the public hearing will be open at the zoning board meeting in July, and the town board here, we have hired an expert to come in and address questions for the public
yeah.
concerning health and other
Yeah.
things that are
And-
engineering.
And that's a good point, because it's such a specialized thing, that type of radio frequency engineer. There's, and the gentleman we've hired, that we brought on board, is very well regarded in that profession. So I think we're doing our due diligence.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
there are guidelines, the federal guidelines, so
They're very strict. so-
very strict about the process by which they make these applications, so. I gotta tell you though, I left a message for our chairwoman Norma Drummond the other night. I watched the cell tower public hearing, and I have to give her credit. Norma's very fair, she's very thoughtful, and she really listens to the public. So I think, very proud of how she conducted her board, and I was very happy, with the work that our professional has done, so.
Yeah, I'm happy too. Norma's a great asset to have, and she makes sure that the public's questions are answered, and if she doesn't have an answer, she makes sure she gets it,
Yeah,
so,
very good.
very happy.
Okay. And Nick, I got to tell you too, and what are your thoughts on the 5-year plan? I appreciate you sitting in with Councilman Danke on the 5-year plan for the police department.
I think we're making great progress, the comptroller and Bill and I, we've made a lot of ground, we have new ideas, try to cut
Yeah.
and save some money, and the police are a lot of help, they want the town to save too,
Yeah,
and keep the level of service that we have. It's a hard thing to do.
yes, it is, it
And
is.
going forward, especially with the revenues that have been lowered the last couple of
Mhm.
years, they've done a good job.
Yeah,
So
Oh, I-
hopefully we could continue that and keep it within that number that we want.
no, I appreciate that. And I got to tell you that, looking at the budgets and things, and everybody in the town has really pulled together, the police department, highway department, really pulled together, to maintain control of escalating expenses. And I really appreciate it. I'm talking with the comptroller today, and he's just remarking about how people that work for the town of East Fishkill, he's never seen it in other towns, because he has worked as an auditor in other towns, but people in the town of East Fishkill, he says it's amazing. You see them, they really want to do the right thing for the town. They love their job, they're happy to be here, and they just want to do what's best for the town. He said, it's amazing. And I see that throughout the whole town. So this is great stuff. I'm very proud of our police department, very proud of our highway department, and all of our employees. I think it's a great thing. So I just to let you know, I did ask the comptroller, he'll be at the next town board meeting. We wrapped up our AUD. He had some special districts, we had to square away a few things, but he's gonna give us a little his thoughts, his findings on the town budget for the general fund and for the highway fund. I asked him just to give us a little report at the end of the meeting. We have no budget transfers, so he'll do that. But going over with Mark, I'll tell you, we're very solid here. So this is a great thing, and it's because of everybody pulling together. Terrific stuff. So I appreciate everybody's work here. I'm really happy with, everything, you guys are doing. So it's just cool. Anything else? Anything else anybody wants to talk about? Attorney looks like he's gonna go to sleep over there. Did you have a long day today? The poor attorney, I know. If you were,
I need hazardous pay.
if you were a tie, I probably wouldn't be picking on you like that, so.
Sorry.
Anyway, with that, the next town board meeting, the voting meeting will be held on June 28th, and the next work session will be on July 12th. And at the work session, we will have the gentleman here to discuss the credit cards with us. All right, anything else?
Nope.
Well, thank you very much for attending, and I appreciate it. And We'll see you on the 28th.